In August and September of 1814, the British attacked both Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. What was the significance of these locations? What was the result of the attacks? The Chesapeake Bay was an important strategic location on the east coast of the United States. The Potomac River flowed into the bay, and the new American capital, Washington, D.C., was located not far away. Additionally, the city of Baltimore, one of America's primary ports, was located within the Chesapeake Bay region. For these reasons, the British sought to capture and hold the bay. In March of 1813, the Royal Navy began a blockade of Chesapeake Bay. However, in August of 1814, the British assaulted the American capital itself. As the British moved into Chesapeake Bay, the Americans abandoned Washington, D.C., and chose to defend Baltimore instead. With a clear path, the British marched into Washington, D.C. unopposed. The British set fire to the Capitol building and other locations. In the process, more than 3,000 volumes at the Library of Congress were destroyed, as well as many ornate decorations and sculptures. As the city was being invaded, First Lady Dolly Madison, with the assistance of servants at the presidential mansion, now known as the White House, saved many valuables from being destroyed. Amongst the items rescued was a priceless painting of George Washington, silverware, and many other artifacts. These treasures were collected as the enemy closed in only blocks away. British soldiers then sat down in the presidential mansion and ate the dinner that had been prepared for a gathering that evening. Less than a day after the British occupied Washington, D.C., a violent thunderstorm swept in and caused additional damage, as well as killing British soldiers and American civilians. However, the heavy rain put out the fires that had been started. With the capital destroyed, the British moved on to their primary target, Baltimore. The attack on Washington, D.C., and the British Army's slow approach towards Baltimore gave the Americans time to strengthen fortifications and prepare for the attack. By the time the British forces landed on September 12, 1814, they were facing 15,000 heavily fortified Americans who were intent on defending Baltimore. The Royal Navy began a bombardment of Fort McHenry, which stood at the entrance of Baltimore Harbor. The bombardment lasted over 25 hours. Throughout the night, all lights in Baltimore were extinguished, and the only light visible was from the shells exploding over Fort McHenry, which illuminated the American flag which fluttered over the fort. The sight so moved Francis Scott Key that he wrote a poem titled Defense of Fort McHenry. This poem eventually became the U.S. national anthem under the title of The Star-Spangled Banner. Realizing that they could not force their way into Baltimore Harbor, the Royal Navy turned back. They sailed downriver and picked up their retreating ground troops, which had been repelled during the attack. The British withdrew from Chesapeake Bay to regroup and plan for another assault elsewhere.